Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're pulling back the curtain on an invisible, honestly kind of wild environmental war happening right beneath our feet. I mean, if you live in a beautiful, established neighborhood, you're probably focused on, your landscaping, paint colors, maybe interior design. But there is an absolute battleground right beneath your foundation where nature and human engineering are just constantly clashing. We're going to use Mountain Brook, Alabama as our prime example to show you exactly what's going down underground. So let's dive right in. So what happens when 1940s infrastructure meets red mountain geology and 90 psi of water pressure? Sounds like a crazy physics problem, right? We usually think of plumbing as just this boring background chore, something you literally only think about when a faucet starts dripping. But you combine aging pipes from the 40s, that rocky, unforgiving geology of a place like Red Mountain, and water literally screaming through those pipes at 90 pounds per square inch, well, it's definitely not a chore anymore. It is a full-on dynamic clash between the relentless forces of nature and the absolute limits of residential engineering. And that brings us to a really crucial number, 1,100. That's the peak elevation in feet for parts of Mountain Brook. Now, why on earth does that matter for your pipes? Because honestly, elevation changes everything. Being perched up that high means this area gets hit with uniquely harsh winter freeze conditions compared to the lower-lying valleys around it. Basically, the higher up you go, the colder those overnight temperature plunges get, and the more exposed your home's infrastructure is to the elements. So to make sense of all this, we're going to break down this hidden war into 4 quick phases. We'll look at the Mountain Brook battleground itself, then nature's underground invasions, the invisible enemies inside your house, and finally, the professional counterattack. All right, starting off with phase 1, the Mountain Brook battleground. It's helpful to think of your neighborhood as sort of a giant threat matrix. Your home's specific vulnerabilities are almost entirely dictated by exactly where it is and when it was built. Take Crestline, for example. Homes there were built mostly between the 1920s and 50s, so the main threat is a brutal combo of original, degrading cast iron pipe stacks and those massive, beautiful mature tree roots that the neighborhood is known for. Now, hop over to Cherokee Bend, built in the 40s to 60s, and the enemy totally shifts to aging galvanized pipes and water heaters just failing. Over in English Village, you've got mid-century slab foundations sitting on shifting clay soils, which creates an absolute nightmare for accessing plumbing when things inevitably go wrong. Your zip code literally chooses your plumbing battles. But whether you're in Crestline or English Village, there's one universal stressor we have to talk about: 90. The Birmingham Waterworks Board delivers water at a maximum of 90 pounds per square inch of pressure. Now, sure, that feels absolutely amazing when you're taking a shower, but that insane pressure violently accelerates the wear and tear on your home's fixtures, connections, and those aging pipes. It's literally like running your car's engine in the red line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just a matter of time. Which brings us to phase 2, nature's underground invasions. Because let's face it, nature is relentless. Those gorgeous mature oak and pine trees shading the properties, well, their roots are constantly underground hunting for water and nutrients. And very slowly, over months and years, they'll find these tiny microscopic cracks in old clay sewer pipes, force their way inside, and just expand until they create a total blockage. On top of that, you've got the heavy Jones Valley clay soils expanding when they're wet and contracting when they dry out. This constant uneven shifting, especially on those rocky slopes, actually causes the foundations to settle. And as the foundation moves, it literally pulls and stresses those rigid underground pipes until the connections just separate and crack right open. And then, oh man, there's the weather. The Alabama freeze-thaw cycle is particularly brutal. A classic January cold snap can plummet temps down into the teens overnight. For homes that have unconditioned crawl spaces or poorly insulated exterior walls, which honestly is super common in older construction, the water sitting inside those pipes just freezes solid. But here's the kicker. It's actually the rapid thaw the very next day that is your true enemy. The ice expands, creating cracks and these sneaky little pinhole leaks that you might not even notice until, of course, the entire space is flooded. It's a sudden, catastrophic breach. Moving on to phase 3, let's head indoors to look at the invisible enemies inside. Because inside the home, you've got some literal ticking time bombs. We already talked about how high water pressure stresses out every joint and valve, right? But you also have to factor in the water chemistry itself. Birmingham is famously known for its hard water. That means the water is packed with minerals that slowly build up as sediments inside your systems. This hard water acts as a totally silent destroyer of your appliances. It drastically drops their efficiency and causes premature water heater failure. In fact, it often limits a water heater's lifespan to just 8 to 12 years before they literally rust through, fail completely, and hand you a massive, unexpected replacement bill. So, what does this actually mean for your day-to-day life? Well, if your home was built before 1980 and still has its original galvanized steel supply pipes, you're almost certainly dealing with what experts call the shrinking pipe. You might assume your low water pressure is just, a city issue. But the truth is, those pipes are silently corroding from the inside out. Decades of rust are building up on the interior walls, physically shrinking the space where water can actually flow. It completely chokes off your water volume, kills the pressure, and is exactly why you might get a blast of rusty, discolored water when you first turn on the tap in the morning. Gross, right? And speaking of gross, have you ever turned on the shower and just been hit by this awful sulfur or rotten egg smell? It feels like a massive plumbing disaster. But actually, scratch that, it's a completely fascinating chemical reaction. It's hydrogen sulfide gas. Basically, naturally occurring waterborne bacteria react with the magnesium anode rod inside your water heater. That's a sacrificial metal rod put there specifically to attract corrosion so the tank itself doesn't rust out. Heat releases the gas from that reaction, which is exactly why you only smell it in the hot water. It is a pretty wild example of the invisible chemical processes constantly happening right inside your home's infrastructure. All right, let's wrap this up with Phase 4, the professional counterattack. There's a quote from Fortress Plumbing Birmingham that perfectly nails the stakes of this underground war. They say, "Plumbing emergencies don't wait for business hours." And it's so true. When a pipe bursts in your crawl space at 2 a.m. on a freezing January night, that's not an inconvenience, it's a crisis. Having local expertise isn't just about knowing how to turn a wrench, it's about geographical knowledge. By operating right there locally, professionals can navigate those specific, hilly, winding neighborhoods and reach a home within 45 minutes of a disaster, bringing the exact parts needed for those unique historic homes. And that urgency translates directly into a really methodical 3-step process. Step 1 is rapid response and assessment. The pros don't just guess what's wrong, they actually use high-tech camera inspections, sending them right down into the sewer lines to see the roots and cracks firsthand. Step 2 is expert repair execution. They move way past just slapping a temporary Band-Aid on it and address the actual root cause of the problem. Finally, Step 3 is testing and guaranteeing the work, making absolutely sure that the new fix is going to hold up against that punishing 90 psi water pressure we talked about. Now, when those massive tree roots finally do destroy a sewer line, homeowners basically have a choice to make. Traditional dig and replace means bringing in heavy, destructive excavation equipment. In Mountain Brook's rocky substrate and sloping yards, this is incredibly slow, taking up to 4 days, and it just wrecks beautiful, mature landscaping. But the modern counterattack? That's trenchless sewer repair. It's way faster, usually done in just 1 to 3 days, and highly efficient because it essentially builds a brand new pipe inside the old damaged one, leaving the beautiful terrain above completely untouched. It's pretty much the ultimate weapon against deep-root intrusions. And what about fighting that hard water inside the house? Upgrading your water heater is a major tactical move. Traditional tanks might give you 10 to 15 years, but they are so vulnerable to that hard water sediment. It builds up on the bottom of the tank, and you can literally hear popping sounds as the burner tries to heat water through a thick layer of rock. On the flip side, tankless systems offer endless hot water and a 20 to 25-year lifespan. But, and this is a huge but, to survive Birmingham's hard water, they absolutely require professional annual descaling maintenance. So there's no magic silver bullet here. Every single solution requires strategic upkeep. Finally, winning this war in the long term requires strict adherence to professional standards. We're talking about rigid compliance with the Alabama Plumbing Code. Pulling permits, passing city inspections, this is how you protect your property's value. It means using high-grade copper and flexible PEX piping, installing dedicated pressure regulation systems to finally tame that 90 psi city water, and backing the whole shebang up with actual workmanship warranties. These aren't just annoying bureaucratic hoops to jump through. They are the armor that permanently secures your home's infrastructure. So I want to leave you with this one thought. What unseen battles are currently being waged beneath your home's foundation right this very second? Is there a galvanized pipe quietly shrinking, or maybe a tiny root widening a crack out in the yard? By understanding the geography, the water pressure, and the age of our systems, we can stop being victims and start being defenders. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes and ears open because your house might just be trying to tell you something.